Hi, my name is Ann Taylor Fleming. I'm a friend of Frank and Ellen's. We're close to the end, but I, for one, could stay here another couple of hours. It seems to me as if we've stolen Frank back. The pictures, all the things that his brothers have said, is to have him here again, and he feels so very, very present. That sweet, pale face, those eyes so full of both melancholy and merriment, that voice. Frank McCourt simply lit up this planet, and he certainly lit up my planet in the all too brief years I was able to call him a friend. Some of my happiest memories over the last decade are of time spent with my husband, Carl Fleming, who could not be here, and Frank and Ellen. We met a dozen years ago at a writers' conference and fell into one of those rare serendipitous four-way friendships, lubricated by a great deal of wine and even more conversation. We talked from morning till night when we were together. There wasn't a topic that Frank McCourt didn't have an opinion on. Frankie. We talked about dogs and politicians. We talked about politicians who are dogs and dogs who are politicians. But Frank was also a great listener. He didn't just talk, and that's one of the things that people forget. Anytime we got together, he always wanted to know what books I'd read, what was going on, and who recently had kicked my heart around the corner and what I was going to do about it. But mostly what we did is laugh. There is no sound I have loved better on this earth than the sound of Frank McCourt. Mostly he laughed in the middle of his own stories, as has been pointed out here. He would start and he would just dissolve, whether he was in my kitchen or in a hall like this, and then everybody would laugh with him. And that's because Frank's humor bubbled up from the marrow. Frank was not a stand-up comedian. His humor was not the glib humor of a jokester. It came from down where the wounds are and the hurts are. It came from a deep familiarity with poverty and cruelty that he had so early learned to handle with the comedic flair of a natural-born storyteller. He took his pain and his humiliations, and he threw them up in the air, and he played with them, and finally, late in life, he nailed them down on paper in a gut-wrenching, beautiful book, and two others to follow after that. Sorry, I'm just taking a pause. Nobody loved his fame more than Frank McCourt, and nobody was least changed by it. He was, as people have said today, the most generous man. There wasn't a good cause he wouldn't step up for, and there wasn't a writer he wouldn't try to help. It was as if, having hit the literary mother lode, he was somehow putting his hand back for the rest of us who were struggling along. I, like many of the other writers out there, are a happy, I guess, blurbee of Frank McCourt's. A couple of years ago, when I had finally written my first work of fiction and sent it to Frank very trepidatiously, an email came back, cryptic. It said, "Fine book. Please reconsider the conjugal sexual byplay at the top of page 47. Ellen and I tried it, and it can't be done." I wrote him back, "Thank you so much for the wonderful blurb. Try it again." The instant email came back, "We already have." To Ellen, my friend, I promise as much joy as we can muster in the years ahead. The last time I saw Frank, he was in the hospice that Colin McCann spoke about. He was surrounded by his brothers, who occasionally serenaded him in a moment I will not forget. And indeed, the cancer had stilled his voice. I'd flown across the country, and I came to the door where he was lying, and he couldn't talk. And as he saw me with his remaining really good eye, he gave me the softest wink. Irrepressible, and I tucked it away, and it's with me, and it will always be with me. My own grief today is leavened by my sheer gratitude that my time on the planet intersected with that of Frank McCourt. I think it is a feeling probably shared by many of you out there. My bottom My feeling is, oh my gosh, how lucky were we? How unbelievably lucky. Bye-bye, my sweet.